Five of us here. Good morning. It's Wednesday, May 21st, and we're on Holy Body and Courtney Zoffness's book, Spilt Milk. And I thought that I would start off with, because both of the prayers that she mentioned, Nekevim, Nekevim, Chalolim, Chalolim, I knew immediately, and I just wanted to share with you. These prayers are in the morning service, and I'm just going to bring up the first one. So this is, and now we say this every weekday. We also say it on Shabbat. So the Hebrew is here. Baruch Adonai, Asher yatsa et ha'adam b'chokhmah uvaro vo nekevim nekevim chalulim chalulim. Blessed, praise to you, Adonai, sovereign of the universe, who formed the human body with skill. He created the body's many pathways and openings. And that's what that is. And, you know, there's just something about that. And I pray every day at camp, and, you know, with kids. And, you know, I think about health all the time, especially when, you know, half of our kids go to pill call. You know, that's not true. 3/4 of our kids go to pill call.
Really?
So, yeah, it's a lot. And so, you know, we want them to be healthy. The other prayer she mentioned, page is it on? So I have this in Kindle 34, but because it's a Hebrew book, it goes backwards. So I don't always.
Oh my God!
Yeah.
You're
so
kidding.
It's not kidding, and it's go to.
It's enough to read it. You have to go.
There we go. And this one is, I'm going to have to go back to share. This is a prayer I'm sure you've all heard. Elohai Neshama, Elohai, Elohai Neshama, Shanatata bi Tehorahi. So, my God, the soul you have given me is pure. You created it, you shaped it, you breathed it into me, and you protect it within me. And I hope that you, I don't know if the word is enjoy this chapter, but I thought it was really packed with things to talk about. Lynn and I already started talking, and she said it's not just about surrogacy, it's about her friendship. So Lynn, tell us more about that, because now with the background of these prayers, it's, you know, really something.
Well, I first want to say, and I said it to Judy, I wrote to Judy, and I said, I'm not quite sure who the narrative is in this book. And then I discovered it's her.
Yeah.
And she's talking to herself. And so this is it's an introspective story about what I feel is her crisis of purpose, is what I call it. It's a crisis of purpose. And she sees her friend, and what her friend the path her friend has chosen is not for her. I mean, she tries to make it hers, but it is not her.
Right.
And the quest is, what is going to be her possibility, which is how it ends. And to her, this whole idea of motherhood, and that's how you seek, how this Carrie sought her purpose.
Yeah.
This woman doesn't know what her purpose is. I mean, she felt, wasn't it amazing that she could have children? I mean, I love this story. I thought it was unique in terms of point of view. The question is for all of us, especially for those of us who have retired, what do we do next? You know, it's that, what am I going to do? I don't want to film my life. I want to fulfill my life. So that's what I followed in this book. I could be wrong, but I think the surrogacy is just, is this for me or not?
Yeah.
And I think she goes back, I mean, it's a introspective book and a retrospective book.
Yeah.
Because she goes back in time.
Yeah.
And camp seems to be, I never went to camp, so you guys who went to camp.
Oh,
you
camp is
could-
very.
Camp is very
yeah.
big in this.
Very meaningful.
Yeah.
I went
Yeah.
to camp.
So that's all I have to say. I mean,
Okay, Judy has her
Yeah.
hand up.
Yeah, I agree with Lynn. I believe.
Right, wait,
that
I'm
this
gonna
is a
turn-
Can't hear
story-
her.
All right, 1 minute, wait, Judy. All right, go ahead.
I believe that this is a story about
That's the wrong one.
her friendship with Carrie.
Oh, there
Her
she goes.
trying to discern if her abilities and desires match up with Carrie's. They don't, in my opinion. On page 55, I think the emphasis that she has is empathy. And she did this procedure to be empathetic.
Wait, what are you talking about? Of
Going
going
in the
to the
mikvah.
mikvah. I wouldn't call it a procedure. I would call it a ritual.
It is a
Okay,
ritual.
I
Not a
have to say, I didn't understand that there could be so many bodies in this water. I found this very frightening. It was something
all
that
there at one
I could not.
They're
get- I
not-
could-
They're not all there at one time.
Yeah.
No, I
It's-
understand that, but all of the different bodies, I mean. Do they empty the water? Do they clean the water? Do they?
So they absolutely clean the water. They're very careful. It has to be a certain amount of fresh water, like they have ice or and it has to be running all the time. It's very, very hygienic.
This the Catholic religion or the.
That's
religion, where they baptize them in water. What is the difference between?
Baptist. They
What-
dunk.
Right,
Baptist dunk.
right there. Yeah. So
Simply sprinkle.
right. When you go to the mikvah, you're purifying yourself. When you get baptized, that means you're going to heaven. I believe I'm not,
correct. You're
I'm not 100% on that, but I will tell you this. I did not go to the mikvah before I got married, which I had always wished I had. And then when Lital got married, we went to the mikvah and it was very moving. But then I really wanted the mikvah experience. I had already, menopause, I didn't have my period anymore. But after I was no evidence of disease from my cancer, I went to the mikvah. And she said special prayers and I cried. It's a very cleansing, that you're, it's a different self. I don't think it's not a baptism. It's within you and of course without you. Now, when you go to the mikvah, you can't have on nail polish. You have to comb through everything. That's one reason I didn't go before my wedding. Because I had a manicure. So, and we use the mikvah at Beth Hillel, and Beth Hillel was sold. I think the mikvah is still in use because Chabad, the Shanowitzes, who are lovely people, they won't let us use their mikvah for conversion or anything like that.
So
Mary, then Sue.
2 things. Number one, I did a mikvah when I converted. There were no prayers. They did not. Oh, no. Because we had a little argument. And thank God for
Where?
Ari.
At Beth Hillel?
Yes, the Mari market, they didn't want to let Ann do it because she had to go through conversion.
Oh.
So Ari stepped in and said, and I said no, and negotiated. And then the person running the mikvah, I think, was like really angry because they just said, go in the water and come out. That was it. It was nothing. Yes, but
not right.
what I think this is, I remember when we merged and we were doing things to the bima, it was very important for people to keep the wall of because it meant something to them. I think that they thought about funerals that they had gone to and looked at that wall. I think their prayer, their spiritual moments over time. And I think that's what the mikvah is. It's over time, people come and have a spiritual experience.
yeah.
And therefore, that's what she's thinking about. Okay, this person had cancer and no longer and wants to, or is in remission, so wants to do it. Or this person lost a baby.
Yes.
And wants to.
Yes.
And so it's that collective. And I think when you're in the sanctuary, I look at the wall and I think about, this has been here for years, and think about all the different events and things that have happened and meaningful things on that bema for people, and they think back on it.
Looking.
And I think that's what it is about. It's not about a bunch of bodies at the same time. I just think it's a bunch of memory. It's memories.
Right.
Where's the wall? I must have missed.
On the bema,
Yeah.
when they put in when they were redoing the bema,
Okay.
people wanted the back wall to remain, they didn't want it the same, which I understand. They wanted it the same. They didn't want them to change the brick, the work, that's what I'm saying. They didn't want it, they wanted it painted, they wanted it finished the same way it is now and was before. So that was one of the things that they talked about, is how to change the bema, but keep, because they were gonna do some changing, what to do and what not to change. And that was one of them. And I think it's because you sit there and that's what you see. You look up at the bema, you look at the back wall, and for many people, it has tremendous meaning. And it's not, so I think it's that collective meaning that she, that's being talked about.
Does it have this, I had the impression about the purity. Is that?
Yes, that's
Is that
definitely part of it.
cleansing?
It's huge. That's what it is. It's
Purifying.
washing away. When I convert, it's washing away
Right.
my previous
Right.
religious.
But observant women have to go after they have their period. They have to go, and they have to make sure it's 5 days after they have their period. They go to the mikvah before they can have sex again.
Right. And
There's a Orthodox mikvah on Tui right next to McDonald's. And people were commenting that, people were parking at McDonald's. Well, because if you park at the mikvah, everyone's like, oh, they're having sex tonight. It's, trying to keep some modesty and listen, that it's a small community. Everybody knows everyone. So, yeah. Sue, you had your hand up.
I know, but I don't think maybe I should say what I
You can
want
say it. We're amongst friends.
Well, I've never been to the mikveh.
I haven't either.
I was born Jewish, and
Right.
and we were always Reform, and even though we were an observant Reform family, I mean, it was just never discussed or
Yeah.
the thought of it.
Yeah.
And when I was reading this book and I read the description, and that she went only because of Carrie.
Right.
Not because of herself.
Yeah, see, that's,
I would never do that for a friend. I mean, no matter how close my friend was. And to me, it sounds absolutely horrible.
But she wasn't.
It sounds like torture.
what, going in the mikvah?
Yes.
Oh, it's like a spa.
it is.
And I mean, when they,
With purpose.
and it just, her description of it,
But
the way
she
it's
wasn't
described
just
in
doing
this
it for
book,
Carrie.
I know
This was
that.
her journey. She was there because of Carrie.
Right.
But it's
Right.
one experience she wanted to have and knew that this was not it. But she wanted the experience. The empathy is, Jerry said.
It just turned me off. That's all I can say.
How does
I would never
Zoffness
go.
describe her relationship with religion in this chapter? And what internal conflicts does she experience regarding her faith and her body? Sue.
Well, that's what hit me initially, was that not Carrie, the other one. Carolyn.
Yeah.
Carolyn. Yeah. That she was having.
Courtney.
She was having a conflict about what makes you Jewish. And do you have to put the commandments into practice? And that's where Harry was. She was kind of like this flighty person, but she was really serious about acting her Judaism. And more than the surrogacy part, I felt like that was just a vessel for the conflict within her of what makes a Jew and can you, and she didn't practice so much. And does she have
Right.
to do everything?
Right. In, Orthodox Judaism, they halacha, they adhere to all of that. There's 613 mitzvot, commandments. You can't do all of them. Some of them are making sacrifices at the temple. We don't do that anymore. Thank God. But there's a prescribed way to act. And I've shared with you a lot about my middle son, Jonathan, who's on the spectrum. And I sometimes think, an Orthodox lifestyle, it would just tell him what to do. It's black and white.
Yes.
You do this or you do that. Because there's no gray for Jonathan, none whatsoever. And, and I think now, I don't think Carrie, I guess she was pretty Orthodox, but, the mikvah has really, come back into fashion. And it's really beautiful. It's like a spa. Now, back in Russia, when people had to go to the mikvah, the mikvah lady was a KGB person and would write your name down. I mean, it's over. Yeah. And, during the Inquisition, I'm sure, they went to a bath, that's a way to catch Jews. When Jews are observant Jews go into a new community, they have to have a mikvah and kosher food. And so, we're very lucky. We live in Chicago and there's plenty of both kosher food and mikvahs for us. And there's something beautiful about the ritual. And I do think our millennials are looking for ritual. I think people coming back to synagogue are looking for ritual. Lynn.
Having been raised ultra reform, I'm learning a lot in this class, but I think I'm going to respond. We just talked.
Sue.
I don't know if it's Judaism that she's wanting. You notice she crossed out God in her.
Yeah.
So I don't think that's her path. But I think what she is having a conflict between the spiritual and the religious. You have to follow all these rules to be a good person.
Yeah.
I think that's her conflict. What do I have to do? It's all through here. I kept writing creed versus deed, creed versus deed. Judaism preaches or advocates deed over creed, right? I think.
Reform.
You can talk a good game,
here's the thing. Reform Judaism does.
Okay.
For the Orthodox, they're like, you do the mitzvah and eventually, you'll feel good, you'll blah, blah, blah.
I think she's rejected that.
She has.
Yes.
Carrie has not.
No, Carrie has not. And they're supposed to be twins,
Yeah.
and that's what's bothering
That's really
her.
interesting.
Yeah,
That whole
that-
twin thing.
That whole twin thing was
Yeah.
very interesting.
Yeah.
Mary and then Evie.
Okay, I think we've all had this. I have had friends who seem incredibly kind or good or altruistic or whatever. I mean, you know what? And they're activists or they're whatever they are. And I always go, oh, why can't I be more like them? And you kind of get that moment of, am I doing enough and how do I do it? And what are my talents and what are my, and I think that's part of it. I don't know if it's religion as much as I want to be a better person and how do I do it? It's what you said in the beginning. The second thing that struck me is that she's married to a Baptist. Came from Baptist. But what was really interesting is that she doesn't know anything about the Baptist. When she calls the minister a priest, a Baptist minister would just, they'd lose their hair. They would just go nuts. It's like, because they.
What do they call them?
They're ministers. And they broke away from the Catholic Church way back when, and they were priests, and now they're ministers. A minister doesn't want to be called a priest. A priest is very different.
Yeah.
A priest has a celibate life. A priest has this, a priest does that. They are people, they're more like a rabbi. They're part of the community. And a Baptist and the lay people call the minister in baptism is a Baptist church, not the church. It's just like we do it. We look at rabbis and say, who do we want? Who's available? Who can be our rabbi? And they're teachers. It's very different than a priest. So she doesn't know a lot about religion one way or the other. She wants something more in her life. It's what Vanessa said, young people wanting to find, they're joining synagogues or churches or whatever to find meaning beyond their cell phone and their job.
Right. And the meaning is another word.
And their kids'
for
soccer game.
purpose, I think. She's trying to find purpose and meaning in her life.
Yeah.
Aren't we all? I mean, I
Yes.
shouldn't say that.
I think we
I think
are.
we
Okay.
are.
I have Evie. I unmuted you. Evie, go, and then Judy.
Yeah, I feel like maybe this is Hebrew where I'm going backwards and going to jump on what Mary said first. Because can you hear me? Yeah, okay.
Yes.
Because like just in terms of what we call a minister, what we call a rabbi, just last night I happened to read the marriage announcement from 1890, whatever, of Guggenheim and Seligman. And the two rabbis were Reverend and Doctor. It did not say rabbi in each other. So the name of rabbi has changed within Judaism, whatever your perspective too. But in terms of, I've always struggled with this. I love tradition and I have a problem with it. Because why am I following the tradition? And growing up in an Orthodox day school and not having an Orthodox home, respectful of the holidays and so forth, and thinking the Jewish calendar in terms of where we were, but how much of it was because of law? How much of it was maybe a status symbol to keep up with my friends who were in an Orthodox day school, the fear of judgment? And I think it's something that I keep struggling with now in terms of why am I doing this? Why am I not doing this? It doesn't have meaning for me. Does it not have meaning for me? Or is it because it's something that I enjoy doing? And it's not clear. It's not a clear path. There's all kinds of shades of gray and purple and fuchsia, whatever. So it's I'm looking for, I'm tired of looking for a reason, I guess is what I'm saying. And the mikvah was not something in my Orthodox day school that I left maybe at 12 and a half. That was ever discussed, or in my conservative Hebrew high school. I just didn't even, I knew that there was a mikvah someplace, not in the neighborhood, but I just didn't really know the reason. And yet when I think of even now, just since COVID, how things like a pedicure or a manicure has changed in terms of, do they change the water? Do they use the water at all? And it depends on the place. So there's just so much shades of whatever going on. And I did not finish the chapter yet, so I probably am premature in saying anything.
Merle. Wait, unmute. There you go.
Can she find it?
I remember when Rabbi Taylor gave a sermon about why people give. And he talked about there are people who have the motivation just to see their name on the wall as a donor or to brag to their friends that they gave. And he said, no matter what the motivation is, it's the giving that is the important thing. And I felt that with Courtney and Carrie, there's this constant comparison where Courtney's trying to figure out why is it that I cannot be as compassionate as Carrie, and she's analyzing Carrie all the time. Carrie has not offered to donate a kidney. Carrie is not a registered donor, and you're surprised and maybe a bit relieved. Courtney's a bit relieved about that. But the other thing was that Carrie thinks, going back to what Rabbi Taylor said, Carrie thinks that people want their generosity to have a limited personal impact. Nobody wants to get their hands dirty or their uterus. It's far easier and cleaner to make donations or call a congressman or write an essay. I think this constant comparison between Courtney and Carrie is fascinating. And I did finish the story, and I'm not going to say what the ending is because I know some people didn't finish it, but I think it took her a really long time to get to her point. And my daughter actually knows a young woman rabbi who has been a surrogate for a friend, didn't charge her anything. She just did it out of sheer kindness. But I thought this was a fascinating story about what happened to the
Yeah.
servant. Yeah. Okay.
There's a rabbi in Minnesota, and she was a surrogate for her youth director. So, I mean, and they're going to continue to see each other. And that the whole, and she put it all out on Facebook because that's where you put everything out. It's on Facebook. Yeah.
The rabbi I was talking about is from Minnesota.
Oh, it's probably Rabbi Arvin. And
It is, yes, it's the same person.
it's the same
Daughter
one.
knows her, yes.
She's divorced. I don't know if she has a partner. I don't think they're remarried. And she has 3 kids already. It's not unlike Carrie. And I was surprised. I was just surprised. And maybe this generation isn't as surprised, but it's an absolutely fascinating story.
And I just want to say,
Elaine, oh wait, yeah.
I just want to say my daughter met that baby. I mean, the baby's fine. Everything was fine.
Oh,
Yeah.
good. Yay. Judy, and then Elaine.
On page 83, I could relate to this paragraph where she crosses out God. I am grateful for my body's amazing capacity to grow and sustain life. I like where she says she's going to reclaim her body to sustain good health and well-being and to nourish my own spirit. I think that's more of the people that I know who want to nourish their own spirit. But when I got to this part in the story, the pain of the politics against women became real for me. In other words, in this story, oh my God, we don't have rights to our body.
Nope.
There's this woman who has to carry a baby because she's brain dead, and they won't allow her to die, but her family wants her to die. And the cruelty. And then I got to this part. We don't have control of our own bodies. And yeah, anyway, that really upset me. But that's how I feel we need to be able to nourish our own spirit.
Yeah. Ta-Nehisi Coates, in a lot of his memoirs and books, talks about having control over your own body. And there's something very, very powerful. Women and certainly Blacks in America have not always had power over their own body. Chattel, absolute chattel. And frankly, chattel in the Bible. And, to this day, there's still slavery today. And so it's something to really think about. Lynn, then Mary.
Okay.
Elaine.
Sorry.
You're right.
I think
I didn't
one
write
of
it
the
down.
themes in this book is guilt. And I think as Jews, we dwell on guilt. She compares herself to Carrie. Why am I not doing this? Instead of seeing she did see the wonderfulness of the surrogate, okay? But she's comparing herself and putting herself down.
Yes.
And I think we, as people, do that all the time. And instead of saying, oh, well, that's a good thing. I couldn't do that, but I accept what someone else said. She is riddled with second thoughts and guilt. And how much time is wasted that we all do on should've, would've, could've. Okay, that's my speech.
That was
Okay.
excellent. Okay.
Lynn.
And I think
Mary.
what else she's doing in this book is evaluating her own morality and comparing it to her friend and realizing they're equal in that. On page, and this I have written all over here because I think it's the turning point. This is on page, got it covered in 80. And this is where I said to Judy, I talked to Judy on the phone, I said, I don't know who's talking. And then all of a sudden I came to this epiphany that she is talking. She's talking to herself. You.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Stop staring at me. She is staring at herself. Stop staring at me, you shouted. In the same moment, you realized that she was naked en route to the shower, also that she was a woman, full breasts and pubic hair to your mosquito bites and fuzz. You don't remember adding, go away, but you probably did. You do remember telling all your friends what Nora said and how you looked and how for the rest of the summer you limped behind her back, head tilted, tongue lolling. You look beautiful when you sleep. You were ruthless. Carrie was too. Nora asked you both to stop, please. She was always polite about it. The memory stalked you both. You spill your shame in Carrie's kitchen. You were old enough to know better. You knew better. Just her pale, soft face, her wet lips parted. Sometimes Nora appears in your dreams. Just her pale, soft, there's her guilt.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Just her pale, soft face, wet lips parted. She doesn't speak, neither do you. Instead, you study each other. You hope you are dreaming up a kinder version of yourself. Hope your eyes hold in them some kind of apology she can discern. Though you are connected on social media, you have never had the guts to say you're sorry.
There's the guilt.
Here's the
Okay,
guilt.
So here's the.
Which she should have been guilty. She was mean to that girl.
Yeah, she was.
Horrible, actually.
What she is facing here and seeing that Carrie is
Yeah.
too is what I taught in a separate piece is when you face your own dark side. And everybody has a dark side if you think about it.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, we're not all angels. So she's realizing 12 years since we've seen each other, posts on Facebook, Nora likes it with a heart. Okay, and then there is this transition on the next page, which you all read and talked about. You will, and the page before 82, you will immerse to acknowledge a transition you never properly articulated, that your womb will no longer house children, that your breasts will no longer feed them, that your shoulders and back and hips will no longer support an infant in a sling, that your children will no longer depend on you, and you will no longer serve them in the same primal ways. She's facing her dark side. She's facing her purpose. She's facing all of this. I mean, how many of us do this in a lifetime? And that's when, as Judy said, it's time to let it go.
So,
Through menopause.
Okay.
Let it be.
I
Okay,
have
Lisa.
Sue, Mary, and Barb. Sue.
so when I read this and listening to what you said, yes, I think especially kids tend to be extremely cruel. When I know that when I was young, and I'm talking about grade school, we made fun of kids who weren't just the way we thought they should be. I mean, we did horrible things. In fact, my good friend, who I'm still friendly with after all these years, we've talked about that and said, oh my God, we were so horrible. I mean, it's just, it is your dark side, but I think young kids don't empathize
Their brains are.
with kids that are different the way they ought to. It's just part of being young and
I see it
immature.
in adults too, so.
Yeah, we have a bad, terrible role model as the president of this United States. Alice isn't here. We can talk about it a little bit. Because when he came down the stairs and made fun, said Mexicans are all rapists and
The reporter that
And
was
they're making
disabled
fun of
was
Biden
horrible.
now.
yes, they're making all of it.
Oh,
So
yeah, how about when he made fun of
of that reporter.
a reporter?
It's just
I
terrible.
started
All right.
shaking.
Mary,
I have a question.
yes,
Okay,
and then
so-
Barb.
She says that Carrie is somewhere between conservative and modern Orthodox. Now, I think of Orthodox as the extreme Orthodox,
Right.
where you check the list, you got to do
Yeah,
this.
yeah.
Okay, and women in Orthodoxy, true.
Yeah.
Serious. I mean, that's modern Orthodox serious. I don't know what the
True
word.
observant is the word.
Yes, thank you. They do not have freedom of their body. They do not have freedom of their thoughts so much even. They have a role they play.
Yeah.
So modern Orthodoxy, I don't know enough about. How different is that?
I think it's a little bit different, and you're making me think now. There, at Mariah, you know, it's a conservative congregation. They have a maharat. The rabbi is a woman. She cannot lead a Shiva minyan. She cannot sign the ketubah. And within a service, she cannot lead Baruch and there's or say Kaddish. So I was talking to one of her congregants. Other than that, I was talking to one of her congregants. I said, well, what does she do? And well, she's my rabbi, you know. I said, and I asked, I said, can she, you know, lead Baruch? Can she say? And he's like, no. I said, well, my rabbi can. You know, like, but it might be interesting to talk to her. I met her at a Shiva. I didn't know it was her. And we were talking and I was like, oh, you're her. Because I'd love to study with her. She seems she's really young. She's got kids. She looks like she's 12, but she's older than that. And I think, you know, she's probably more towards the all in. It would be interesting to talk to different, you know, women's perspectives on that. All right, Barb, and then we can get back to that. There you go.
I think a lot of this has to do with a woman's capacity to accept what she can do, and I think that capacity for tikkun olam or whatever it is, that any good that you feel that you must do changes as you experience different periods in your life. For instance, in this story, they talk about the time when you are no longer going to have the capacity to again be a mother to a child, a new child again. And then also having had this surrogacy experience in our own family, I just love this chapter because it brought up a lot of the feelings that all of us had at the time about the gift that someone was willing to give somebody, another couple, this unbelievable gift. And I remember even questioning myself at the time. Is this something I could have done? Is this something that I could have done for another human being, another couple? I don't know if I have the capacity for that or not. It's not something that crossed my mind until then. And you have to realize that you can't beat yourself up for what your capacity is for you.
That's right. Here. Merle.
Well, this story goes beyond an ordinary story about a surrogate. This surrogate has a problem.
I said to you.
And all of the modern day complexities of writing a contract, having a good lawyer, making sure insurance none of this was like these people were so naive. Something was wrong here. And the fact that once she finds out that there is a complication, that she's allergic to the antibodies in the embryo, nobody wants to help her. The parents in the UK don't want to help her.
That was made me so angry.
I know. It's
Angry.
Right. And you know, I don't want to say what happens at the end because I know some, but you do get a very biblical kind of answer to this at the end.
Yeah.
But I just thought that was such an interesting twist to this story.
Yeah.
As altruistic as Carrie was, she suddenly starts feeling differently when she finds out they're not going to help her take care of her complications. So I thought it was a very interesting twist.
Yeah, it absolutely was. Elaine.
I think this is a very, very human story. I don't, we all want to be a silver lining, pretty, blah, blah, blah. This is the world. The people in England hopefully get what they want and they could care less. And when you see normal lives, that's what happens. I think this is the truest story of our world. And whether we like it or not. And we all see, we put ourselves in someone else's shoes when they get sick. Oh, I remember being newly married. We lived in a townhouse, and across the way, one of my good friend's sister-in-law got breast cancer. I developed all of the symptoms. I mean, it was amazing, okay? And we say, oh, why do I want to be like Vanessa? I'm not Vanessa. And we all do this. Oh, she's such a good person. She does blah, blah, blah. I should do that, which I have no interest in doing and no care of doing. But I do that to myself. And this is the story. It incorporates human nature to 100%, our warts and our good parts. And it's not really about religion. I mean, religion is brought in because she's Jewish and the whole book is about religion, but it's more about our world.
Yeah. Lynn.
Um,
And then Izzy.
I'm trying to ingest what Elaine just said. The question is, in the book, for me also was, how much sacrifice is a person willing to make to be good?
Oh.
And do you have to be good?
And do you have to sacrifice? And
Yeah,
how
I think
much
it's
do you have
to sacrifice.
Yes.
And what can you be good in other ways? And when you said this, I think also we look at our children and we want our children to be like us. And, they should go to synagogue and they should do this and they should do that. But, maybe they're going to find it fulfilling.
A different way.
In a different way. And
Well, possibilities. The
Right.
less,
Yeah.
what are the possibilities open to you that you would feel comfortable doing, but still demonstrate
Yeah.
empathy and goodness and whatever, and not beat yourself up that you're not going to be a surrogate. I mean, that's the ultimate.
The ultimate, right. Izzy
No.
and then Roberta. Izzy.
I tell you, I changed my whole opinion, a lot of my opinion about Carrie when she finds out that there's something maybe wrong with the baby and her genetically, and then she may have to suffer something. And Carrie is appalled. She feels misused. She says she feels like a robot uterus. Well, she was. I mean, she was a robot uterus. And then she's expected to brave this ideal. She's really expected to brave this ideal at her own expense. And then earlier in the story, she talks about how she doesn't need the money. She doesn't need the money, And these poor people say she asked them, and they say they're saving up money to come to where is it, San Francisco or New York to see the baby. And she has no rachmanis.
Yeah.
And that really bothered me a lot. It's like she was willing to go so far, but not all the way.
That didn't bother me.
It didn't bother you?
No, because it was a life and death matter for Carrie. She could have died from that. And, and they said, we don't have any more money. Well, you got to find more money. There's always more money. Roberta and then Barb. Go ahead, Roberta. Oh, Izzy, were you done?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Sorry. I just want to say, when we're making judgments about a person's character and goodness, I always think about the definition of goodness and what role that plays in people's judgment. When you say, are you good enough? What's good enough? What's good? What's the baseline? And I find myself asking that and wanting to read it between the lines or somewhere in the story to find your idea of goodness.
Yeah, that's
Does
very
it
true.
justify your criticism of yourself?
Mhm.
It's
It's like that Supreme Court justice who says, I don't know what the definition of porn is, but I know what it is when I see it. And I don't know what the definition of goodness is, but we do know when we see it and when somebody's good and
When I was teaching The Great Gatsby, I said to my students, why wasn't this called The Good Gatsby?
Oh,
And they pondered that,
Right.
they pondered that. And I said, well, was he good or was he great? That's a question.
Yeah.
Great
We
question.
don't,
Yeah.
he wanted to be great.
Yeah.
We wanted him to be good. There's
There's a
people,
difference.
Yeah.
there is a difference, big difference.
Yeah. Barb, did you want to say something? No. Why is this chapter called Holy Body? And what are they talking about?
I think Caroline thinks that Carrie's body, because she is giving it,
Uh-huh.
is holy. It's a vessel, and she views it as that. And that's where that comes in.
Yeah.
Using it for.
And puts Carrie at a different level than herself because she is doing all of this.
Yeah. Sue and then Mary. Then Merle.
I find it interesting about her husband allowing this
Yeah.
to happen.
Yeah.
I mean, we can all think about this. If we were of that sort of person,
Mm-hmm.
would our husbands go along with that? I mean,
Do they have to?
do they have to?
Well, they did.
Well, in a way, they're giving up, but they're giving up of themselves also
Yes.
because their sex life is,
Yeah.
Somewhat.
I mean, I just think it's
Yeah.
interesting to think
Yeah.
about the husbands.
I think today's husbands view their wives differently.
Agreed.
And the relationship is different than you and I had
Agreed.
with our husbands.
And the relationship I have with my husband is different than what my daughter has
Yes,
with her
my,
husband.
my granddaughter has a totally different
Totally.
relationship than I had.
Yeah.
They are much more equal.
Yeah.
They
I understand that.
So it's not, I mean, I would not have done most of the things I did without my husband saying it's okay. My granddaughter does, not in a selfish way, but they just do what they want to do. And he does what he wants to do. And they meet in the middle somehow.
I
It's
understand.
different.
No, I understand that, but still, you're a couple. And when you're giving up your body, literally,
Mhm.
to a stranger,
Yeah.
practically,
Yeah.
for 9 months,
Yeah.
that does have an effect
Yeah.
on the marriage.
It does,
And
but it's
no
her
matter
body.
what
Yeah.
generation you're from.
Yeah. Merle and then Mary.
Well,
Merle, go ahead.
I thought the title Holy Body was very misleading. Body is such a mundane word. It just doesn't really resonate that much. But then when we got to the poem at the end, the prayer written by the rabbi for a surrogate mother, finally I did understand where it says, Makor HaChaim, source of life, inspire me to become a holy vessel, blessed with the opportunity to carry this precious seed, providing nourishment and warmth within the within the deep embrace of my womb. Then I understood the title. It took me all the way to the end of the story to understand that the holy body meant holy vessel of the body. So I thought that the title was very misleading. That's all.
Mary.
This is real quick. Her husband
Yeah.
headed a Jewish agency. He was, he was in that, he was into the non-for-profit, a Jewish non-for-profit.
Yeah.
So part of that may be easier because he's seeing her body as the holy vessel or whatever. He's looking at it differently. My husband would go, "Are you nuts?" I mean, he wouldn't, I think that may have helped a little bit in this relation, this situation is that they were kind of maybe on the same path. Husband and wife and their jobs and in how they were living their lives. So I think,
Right. Sue just said I would never dream of doing such a thing. We didn't have the science to even do it. And so I think today, our kids and our grandkids and all of them, it's just, there's going to be different family, what's the word?
Dynamics.
Well, yeah, right. But everything is going to be
Yes.
It's different and our kids look at it differently and, they've been raised that way. Roberta, did you want to say something? No, okay.
Not yet.
Yes.
Somebody said, who said Carrie must be messed up? No, somebody
No.
said, no. Courtney, I think, is a little bit messed up.
Well,
I mean, she
I
is
think
going
she's
through such a
searching.
she
Yeah.
is searching, but I
Right.
think she's at crisis point here.
right. And listen,
I mean,
Courtney's the
what-
narrator, so we know more about
Right,
her. We don't
right.
know what Michigas that
Yes,
Carrie
Carrie
has.
is, yes.
And Courtney is looking at her with rose-colored glasses.
Yes.
Oh, look at all she does. Look at this, look at that. And we started out together at camp and we were like twins.
Yeah.
That whole thing was just weird. And that on Merle than Judy, and they on Facebook they took a picture of themselves and Nora liked it. I mean, that whole thing was fascinating. All right, Merle and then Judy.
I thought it was an interesting literary technique, something similar to Virginia
Oh.
Woolf. She's
Oh, yeah.
standing there waiting to step into the mikvah while all these thoughts are going through her head. And I thought that was
Exactly.
a very, very good literary technique.
I've never seen, have you ever seen that in a book before? I have
Just
not,
for-
this
just
point of view.
Virginia Woolf.
Virginia Woolf?
Yeah, where she's knitting while she's telling you the story to the lighthouse. Yeah.
Yeah.
Where you're
But
just-
when she's yelling at herself, I mean, that's when, I'm thinking, oh my God, she's yelling at herself, and it's going through, we all have yelled at ourselves at one point or another, but
Yeah.
I thought to
All
get
of
it.
this-
Every day.
It's all happening while she's waiting to step into the mikvah. I don't know if she ever actually stepped into the mikvah.
Yes, she did.
She did.
She did.
Judy, then Elaine.
I didn't think Carrie was a very good friend. I think that's asking a lot of your friend, especially if you really know her and she supposedly has known her for a long time.
I don't think
So-
she asked.
Now that is the mindset of somebody who is Orthodox. They always want you to try the mikvah, try being kosher, try. That is part of their faith and what they're told to do. I don't think it has to do with they don't differentiate between what their friends need and what they don't need. I'm sorry, Judy, go ahead.
No, that never occurred to me.
You don't have any Orthodox friends saying, "Hey, come on, you gotta blah blah blah."
Let's go swimming.
Well,
No,
yeah.
I don't.
I will say this. It was at Lakeside and I was talking, it was a women's group and I said, we should go to the mikvah and blah, blah. And one person was very hesitant. And I finally said, what's the matter? She goes, well, I don't think I could get naked in front of all of you. I said, we're not getting into the mikvah. We're looking at it.
Oh, you thought
she's
you were
like,
going in?
all of us together, which you can't do anyway. Okay.
I
Barb.
probably would have been the stupid person that said that.
Barb, go ahead.
So is proselytizing okay in Orthodoxy?
Yes.
Yeah, I think it's part of their way. Absolutely. Abby, then Elaine.
Two thoughts. One of them, I was just thinking in terms just the nature of water and reflection and what you think about anytime in the water and how as you're looking at water, the shapes change and the mirror image is not quite the mirror and the position and so forth. But the other thing that I was thinking about in terms of orthodoxy and law and so on and so forth, I don't think it's just orthodoxy. I'll give you an example. When one of my sons got married and the wedding was in June, it'll be 20 years next month, and they wanted to go to the conservative synagogue that I grew up at. And I said, I don't think it's going to happen on a Saturday night, wedding in June. And they didn't listen to me. Okay. Went to the rabbi, said, absolutely not. Fine. Okay. Went to her rabbi, that she grew up with, no problem, no problem. However, we have one sibling between the person that they wanted to sign the ketubah is my sister-in-law, and he would not allow a woman, this is a Reform rabbi, would not allow a woman to sign the ketubah. That was his major restriction. So, it's kind of all over the place in terms of not just us, but I think sometimes the rabbis too, what they grapple with and what they allow. I mean, there was that whole thing for many years within the Reform movement in terms of mixed marriages. You know, it was not above board. You know, there were two for many years, and then there were more, and so on and so forth. So I think it's just, I think we're sometimes looking for what is the law and what are we breaking at least, but I don't think it's real definite among all the way through.
No, I mean, it is definite that women can't sign ketubah.
I signed a ketubah.
Not an Orthodox one. And we had another friend of the family, not unlike you, Eddie, and he's like, he asked somebody to sign it, and I knew the rabbi who was doing the wedding. I'm like, he's not gonna let that. He won't let another man sign it because, you know, for truly observant people, you have to be Orthodox, a man, keep Shabbat, keep kosher. I mean, it's a thing. And so that's why the Maharad at Mariah can't sign a ketubah or do all that. So I think some of those laws, and look, we've looked at them in Reform Judaism, and we can choose, and we've decided women can sign the ketubah, and women can do weddings and can read from the Torah and become a bar bat mitzvah.
Me.
Elaine.
I think that we're losing track of how important young life is. When you're at camp, and Vanessa can attest to how important the connections are. And over the years, I think Carrie and Courtney have sort of looked at it through rose-colored glasses. And, you know, we forget that, this was a growing experience. Say they were 12 or 13 when they were at camp, how important their relationship was. And over the years, you sort of get it, it was just the best time of my life at camp when I was young. Or when I was in college, people talk about that lovingly, that it was so wonderful. So I think this is part of why she wants to be like Carrie, and knows that she can't. You know, I think this is the most realistic story. Forget all the Orthodox or whatever. I think it's the most realistic about human beings and what goes through your mind.
What's also realistic is at the point where you realize someone that you really idolized isn't so perfect.
Yes.
And I think that's
Well,
part of
very
realistic. Part of her epiphany.
Yeah.
Um,
Beverly.
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry, Beverly, and then Merle, and then I gotta go.
I thought you had to go.
I do. Well, it's a little,
she's
okay.
mute. She's you have to.
Oh,
unmute her.
wait.
Beverly.
Oh, there you are. You're
And I
good.
just wanted to add two things. It's my understanding, yes, Jews can proselytize other Jews to
Yeah.
try to get non-Jews, non-religious
Yeah.
Jews to be more religious. They're not
Yes.
going into the church.
No,
And
you're absolutely right.
right. And the other thing is my direct experience with
stopped you at the
surrogacy
jewel.
with two gay men who were married, had two sisters. And each of those sisters agreed to be a surrogate for they're not their brother, you know. And they had two sons that they raised. And I thought it was an amazing story.
That is an amazing story. Merle, real quick, because I just
Okay,
have to
I
go.
just want to say, I thought that the mention of the surrogate in the Bible was so important at the end.
Yes,
Yeah.
I agree.
The analogy between
Yeah.
Carrie and
Yeah.
Hagar and being cast out, both of them, in a very cold and an awful, unfeeling way. I thought that was a great way to tie up the story.
Yeah. So we meet again June 4th. We'll do, the next story is, it may all end in Aleppo. And I just thought, great session today. I have to go onto this other Zoom, and if you need anything, let me know. Roberta, I'm sorry I got that link. Are you getting my email the day before, Roberta?
Without the link though, no.
It didn't have the link. It did? Oh.
No.
It's always the same link, but I'll go back and look at that. Okay, I usually say click here. Okay, thank you, everybody.
Thank
Thank you, bye.
Bye. He lives by